camera zooms in on the sleek, modern set of The Nightly Perspective, a top-rated talk show known for its sharp-tongued host, Ethan Blake. The audience is electric, some eager, some skeptical, as Clint Eastwood, the legendary actor and director, sits across from him. Dressed in his signature rugged style, Eastwood remains calm, his weathered hands resting on his lap. But the air is charged. Ethan leans forward with a smirk, eyes locked onto the small but distinct silver necklace around Eastwood's neck. "Clint, I gotta ask," he says, barely holding back his condescension. "That little trinket, what's the story? Some kind of cowboy good luck charm?" The audience chuckles. A few people clap. They can already smell blood. Clint doesn't flinch. His piercing gaze cuts through the laughter like a blade. The host grins, sensing an easy win. He thinks he's in control, but what he doesn't know, what no one in this room realizes yet, is that they've just walked into a moment that will go down in history, because Clint Eastwood is about to say something that will leave the entire world speechless. Before we get into today's story, let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Now, let's get started. Ethan Blake wasn't just any talk show host. He was a master manipulator, a product of the new media age where viral moments were crafted, not discovered. He thrived on ambush journalism, turning interviews into spectacles where guests were mocked, outnumbered, and strategically cornered. His producers carefully selected topics designed to provoke, cut together misleading pre-show teasers, and even planted audience members to clap or boo on cue. Tonight was no different. The producers had prepped the segment all day, combing through Clint Eastwood's history, looking for anything that could be spun into controversy. But when nothing damning surfaced, they decided to take a different route: ridicule. If they couldn't trap him in scandal, they'd turn him into a punchline. Before the show, Ethan and his team had already discussed their approach. The plan was simple: mock the necklace, frame Clint as an out-of-touch relic of the past, and bait him into an overreaction. They had even prepared an edited montage to play on the big screen. Clips of Eastwood from his old westerns, black and white footage of cowboys, and a comically dramatic voiceover calling him America's last cowboy. It was designed to make him look ridiculous, a relic desperately clinging to a bygone era. The audience would laugh, social media would erupt, and within hours, news outlets would be running with the headline, "Clint Eastwood gets defensive over a necklace on live TV." The higher-ups at the network knew exactly what they were doing. They had seen how social media thrived on generational clashes: young versus old, progressive versus traditional, Hollywood elite versus the old guard. Clint was the perfect target. A legend, sure, but in their eyes, he was also a 93-year-old man who wouldn't be able to match Ethan's quick-witted, cutting-edge style. They assumed he'd stumble, get frustrated, maybe even storm off, and that's what they were counting on. Because in their game, it didn't matter if what was said was true, only how it could be spun. Backstage, a junior producer whispered to another, "This is gonna be good. He won't even see it coming." The crew smirked as they finalized their camera angles. They made sure Clint's reaction shots would be ready, close-ups for maximum effect, slow-motion replay potential. The pieces were all in place. In their minds, this was a sure thing, a guaranteed viral hit. But what they didn't account for, what none of them even considered, was that Clint Eastwood wasn't just an actor. He was a storyteller, a man who had spent a lifetime in front of cameras, under scrutiny, playing the long game. They thought they were setting a trap. They had no idea they were the ones walking into one. The stage lights beamed down as Ethan Blake leaned in, flashing his signature smirk. He tapped his cue card against the desk, waiting for the audience's laughter to settle. "So, Clint," he said, gesturing vaguely toward the small silver necklace resting against the actor's chest. "I gotta ask, what's with the charm? Some kind of cowboy voodoo? Or just a relic from the days when men rode horses instead of, driving Teslas?" The audience burst into laughter. A few scattered claps echoed through the studio. Ethan turned to the crowd, nodding along, milking the moment. He had them exactly where he wanted them. Clint Eastwood remained motionless. His face, carved by years of experience, betrayed nothing. He merely tilted his head, watching Ethan like a hawk assessing prey. He opened his mouth to respond, but Ethan, sensing an opportunity to keep the energy high, cut him off before he could speak. "Oh, wait, Ethan interrupted, waving his hand theatrically. "Let me guess. It's a lucky charm from the good old days, a reminder of simpler times when men didn't cry and everyone smoked inside." More laughter. This time, a few audience members whistled. The camera panned to a young woman in the front row, covering her mouth, stifling a laugh. Clint shifted in his seat, finally speaking in his signature slow, measured tone. "You done?" Ethan grinned. "Oh, come on, Clint. We're just having fun." He gestured to the audience. "Relax, it's all in good spirit." He turned back, eyes narrowing slightly. "But seriously, what's the deal with the necklace? I mean, you're Clint Eastwood. You built your entire career playing no-nonsense tough guy roles, and now you're here with, what is that? A locket? A friendship necklace? Does it have a little note inside?" He cupped his hands as if holding something delicate and pretended to read aloud in a mock-dramatic tone. "Dear Clint, remember to always tip your bartender." The audience roared with laughter. The camera zoomed in on Clint's necklace, the silver chain glinting under the studio lights. Ethan leaned back, satisfied. This was playing out exactly how he had envisioned. The internet would eat this up. Clint sighed, rubbing his fingers together absent-mindedly. He started to respond. But once again, Ethan wasn't finished. No, but really," he continued, feigning genuine curiosity. "Is it a sentimental thing? A gift from a past lover? A lost dog's tag? Help us out here, man." Another laugh from the crowd. The energy in the room had shifted. This wasn't just teasing anymore. It was something meaner, something calculated. Clint tried once more. But Ethan wasn't letting up. "Because let me tell you, Clint," he said, shaking his head as if he were letting him in on a little secret. "In today's world, men your age, guys who talk about toughness and grit, don't usually walk around with, He mimed, holding something dainty between his fingers. A cute little necklace. The audience gasped. Some clapped. A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. Was this going too far? Clint's jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. Ethan glanced at his producers, who were nodding approvingly from behind the cameras. This was exactly what they wanted. A generational clash, a viral-worthy humiliation. "Come on, Clint." He pushed further, grinning ear to ear. "Tell us, what's the big manly meaning behind your little piece of jewelry?" A beat of silence. The laughter hung in the air. Clint exhaled slowly, adjusting in his seat. Ethan tapped the desk again. "You're not getting shy on me now, are you?" he quipped, leaning forward. "I mean, this is a safe space, I promise. We can all have a good cry together afterward if you'd like. More laughter, but this time it wasn't unanimous. A few audience members had stopped clapping. Some were watching more closely now, sensing that maybe, just maybe, Ethan was pushing too hard. Clint Eastwood, the man who had built his legacy on silence and presence, finally lifted his gaze, locking eyes with Ethan. His voice was calm, steady. "You really want to know?" Ethan chuckled, nodding. "That's the point of an interview, Clint." Another long pause. The tension in the room shifted ever so slightly. Clint rolled his shoulders, as if shaking off the weight of the moment. And then, with a single sentence, he would take back control of the entire conversation. Clint Eastwood let the silence stretch. Not an ounce of discomfort on his face. He wasn't just waiting, he was letting Ethan Blake's arrogance fill the air like a bad smell, making the host's own words hang heavy. The audience, once rolling with laughter, had quieted. They could feel something shift. Then, with the same slow, deliberate voice that had made him a legend, Clint spoke. "You ever stand over a man while he bleeds out, Ethan?" The room went still. A few audience members frowned, unsure if they had heard him right. Even Ethan's smirk faltered, just for a second. Clint reached for the necklace, rolling the small silver pendant between his fingers. "This ain't a charm," he said. "It's a bullet casing." His voice was steady, unshaken. "Came from the rifle of a man who saved my life." The murmurs started, whispers, shifting in seats. People weren't laughing anymore. Ethan forced a chuckle. "Oh, come on, Clint, I was filming Where Eagles Dare in '68. Clint continued, ignoring him. Took a break. Walked off set. Some kid, barely 20, recognized me, just a soldier on leave. Big fan of the Westerns. We talked a little. He told me he was shipping out to Vietnam the next day." Clint's eyes darkened, his fingers tightening around the necklace. "Didn't think much of it. Couple months later, I get a letter. Same kid, writing from a hospital bed. Said my movies were the only thing that got him through the nights. Said when his squad got ambushed, he thought about all those cowboys riding into the fire." The audience was silent now, not a cough, not a murmur. Clint looked down at the necklace, as if seeing it for the first time. Said he saw me once in a film, standing my ground, so he did the same, saved 3 of his brothers, took 2 bullets for it. He exhaled slowly, 1 in the leg, 1 in the chest. Ethan's smirk had disappeared. Clint's voice dropped even lower. "He didn't make it." He tapped the pendant. "His mother sent me this. Told me he kept my picture in his pocket." His jaw tightened. "Told me he died, believing he could be strong." Silence. You could hear the weight of it pressing down on every single person in the studio. Ethan swallowed. He was scrambling now. "Clint, look, I didn't mean any—" Clint cut him off. "You wanted to laugh at a necklace. Now you know what it means." His stare was unblinking. "You still think it's funny?" Ethan's lips parted, but no words came out. He was stuck. If he backpedaled, he looked weak. If he doubled down, he looked heartless. Then it happened. Someone in the audience clapped. Then another. And another. Within seconds, the entire room was applauding. It wasn't a polite talk show clap. It was something deeper. Something raw. A standing ovation. Ethan's fingers twitched against his cue card. His producers were signaling him, trying to salvage the moment. But it was too late. He had lost them. The internet was already on fire. Clips of Clint's words were being uploaded in real time. Comments poured in. "This is why you don't mess with a legend." Clint just buried this guy on his own show. Ethan just learned what real men sound like. Ethan tried to laugh it off, but the damage was done. He was no longer the one in control. Clint leaned back in his chair, calm as ever. Any more jokes, kid? Ethan had nothing. And for the first time in his career, he realized he was the punchline. The internet didn't just react, it erupted. Within minutes, clips of Clint's brutal takedown flooded every corner of social media. Twitter, or X as some stubbornly called it, was ablaze with hashtags. Juan Clint hounds Ethan, respect legends, necklace story. The original video of the exchange racked up millions of views before Ethan's team could even think about damage control. But there was no controlling this. It was already out of their hands. The internet had chosen its winner. Underneath the video, the comments section read like a battlefield. This is what happens when you let arrogant hosts disrespect real men. Clint Eastwood just humbled an entire generation in 2 minutes. Ethan tried to be funny, but Clint just gave him a lesson he'll never forget. People weren't just siding with Clint. They were rallying behind him. Veterans groups reposted the clip, calling it a reminder of what real sacrifice looks like. Young men who had never even watched a single Clint Eastwood film were suddenly quoting him. Even celebrities and politicians chimed in. Actor Chris Pratt reposted the video with one word: legend. Joe Rogan called it the greatest live TV moment in years. Elon Musk, never one to miss a viral moment, simply tweeted, respect. But while Clint was gaining an army of supporters, Ethan Blake and his network were spiraling. Within hours, the Ethan Blake Show was trending for all the wrong reasons. Clips of Ethan's smirk, his smug interruption, were being dissected, frame by frame. Meme accounts plastered his face over everything from failed boxing matches to sinking ships. A particularly brutal edit paired his awkward silence with crickets chirping, ending with game over, flashing in bold red letters. Then came the real fallout. Major sponsors like Nike, Coca-Cola, and Verizon, companies that had backed Ethan's show for years, started distancing themselves. They didn't outright condemn him, but their statements were telling, "We support respectful dialogue and thoughtful discussion. We stand with those who honor the sacrifices of our nation's heroes." The message was clear. They weren't about to go down with a sinking ship. Meanwhile, Ethan's own colleagues were jumping ship. Other talk show hosts, sensing blood in the water, started subtly mocking him. Late-night comedians, normally aligned with his views, made light jabs at his expense. Trevor Noah quipped, "Man, when Clint Eastwood calls you kid on live TV, just pack it up and go home." Even the New York Times, a publication that had once praised Ethan as a sharp-witted provocateur, published a scathing opinion piece. When did respect become a punchline? The article didn't outright cancel Ethan, but it made one thing clear. His arrogance had cost him. Behind the scenes, Ethan's producers were panicking. Their star host, the man who was supposed to be untouchable, had just been publicly humiliated by an 80-year-old Hollywood legend. Board meetings were held. PR teams scrambled to craft a response. They issued a half-hearted statement. "Ethan Blake has always championed lively debate and free expression. We regret that a moment of levity was misinterpreted. That word alone sent the internet into another frenzy. Misinterpreted? The man mocked a veteran's keepsake and got schooled for it. This ain't a moment of levity, it's a career-ending moment." By the next morning, Ethan's name was no longer just trending, it was synonymous with failure. Viewership numbers for his latest episodes tanked. Networks began questioning whether his contract was worth the backlash. Anonymous sources within the studio leaked that producers were already considering shifting focus to new hosts. But it didn't stop there. Veterans organizations demanded an apology. Lawmakers, particularly conservative ones, used the moment to push for more respect toward veterans in the media. A Republican senator posted the clip with the caption, "This is why Hollywood is out of touch. Respect our heroes." Even liberal commentators, those who typically supported Ethan's style of debate, were divided. Some doubled down, calling Clint's moment performative patriotism. Others, however, admitted the truth. Ethan had crossed a line. And then came the final blow. A leaked email from one of Ethan's producers surfaced, revealing that the team had planned to mock Clint's necklace all along. The email, dated a week before the interview, contained notes from a production meeting. Lean into the old-school tough guy persona. Make fun of the necklace. It'll get a reaction. The internet exploded again. This wasn't just a spontaneous joke gone wrong. This was a premeditated attack. Ethan wasn't just arrogant, he was calculated. The clip of Clint's response took on an even deeper meaning. It wasn't just a moment of spontaneous wisdom. It was a veteran standing his ground against a planned ambush. People who had initially defended Ethan backed away. Even his allies couldn't justify it now. By the end of the week, the Ethan Blake Show was in serious trouble. Advertisers had pulled millions in funding. The network was facing boycotts. And Ethan himself, he had gone silent. No tweets, no statements, no smug responses. Clint Eastwood, on the other hand, remained exactly the same. He wasn't gloating, he wasn't responding, because legends don't need to. The scandals surrounding the Ethan Blake Show wasn't just a momentary PR disaster. It was about to become a full-blown legal crisis. Clint Eastwood, a man who had spent decades embodying justice on screen, wasn't about to let this slide. His legal team wasted no time. Within days, a lawsuit was filed against Ethan Blake, his production team, and the network itself. The claims? Defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and orchestrated character assassination. The lawsuit made one thing clear. This wasn't just an offhanded joke gone wrong. Clint had been deliberately set up for public humiliation. And then came the evidence. Legal filings included leaked internal emails from the show's producers outlining the exact strategy they had planned against Clint. One email, dated before the interview, laid it out in brutal clarity. Push him on the necklace. Make it a joke. Get the audience to laugh. If he gets defensive, double down. Frame him as out of touch. The goal is to make him look outdated, reactionary, a relic of the past. Another email revealed that the audience's reaction wasn't even organic. The laughter, the scoffs, scripted. Producers had prepped the audience before the show, instructing them to react in specific ways. They had hired energy boosters, paid individuals planted within the crowd to laugh at Ethan's jokes and boo Clint when needed. This wasn't a debate. This was an ambush. As these revelations surfaced, more whistleblowers came forward. A former producer from the show, choosing to remain anonymous at first, broke their silence in an exclusive interview. Ethan's team had been doing this for years. They pick a target, set them up, and then edit the footage to make them look foolish. The Clint situation just blew up because for the first time, someone fought back and won. Then came the biggest bombshell of all. An audio recording, captured behind the scenes, was leaked to the press. It was a recording of Ethan Blake himself, gloating about what they were about to do before the show. Clint's not going to know what hit him. He'll try to pull that respect card. But trust me, we'll make him look ridiculous. This is what we do. The backlash was immediate and devastating. The network was forced into damage control mode, scrambling to distance itself from Ethan. Their PR team issued a pathetic statement. The Ethan Blake Show has always aimed to foster open discussion and challenge ideas in a respectful manner. We regret any misunderstanding that may have occurred during Mr. Eastwood's appearance. A misunderstanding? That word sent social media into a frenzy again. Misunderstanding? You're literally staged a hit job on an American legend? Clint should own this network after that lawsuit. This is straight-up manipulation. How many other guests did they do this to? Public pressure intensified. Advertisers pulled out in droves. Sponsors cut ties. Stock prices for the parent company plummeted. And Clint, he wasn't done. His legal team expanded the lawsuit, now including fraud and intentional media manipulation as key points of contention. With mounting pressure, more ex-employees from the Ethan Blake Show began speaking out. A former editor leaked unedited footage of past interviews showing how Ethan's team had doctored clips to make guests look bad. They had altered pauses, spliced reactions from different moments, and even removed parts of guests' responses to make them look confused or angry. The lawsuit grew even stronger. Then, in a shocking turn of events, the Federal Communications Commission, FCC, launched an investigation into the network. The potential charge? Deliberate misinformation and audience deception. This was no longer just about Clint Eastwood. This was about systemic media corruption. With legal troubles piling up and a national scandal brewing, the network had no choice. The Ethan Blake Show was pulled off the air indefinitely. Just like that, the show that had once dominated ratings was gone. Ethan Blake himself had vanished from public view, refusing to issue a statement, refusing interviews. His Twitter account went dark. Rumors swirled that he had been pressured to resign before the network could fire him outright. Meanwhile, Clint Eastwood, he remained calm, collected, and victorious. In his first public statement since the lawsuit, he spoke with measured confidence. Respect isn't outdated, but some people have to learn that the hard way. And just like that, Clint didn't just win the lawsuit, he won the culture war. The fall of the Ethan Blake Show was swift and absolute. After weeks of mounting pressure, damning evidence, and Clint Eastwood's relentless pursuit of justice, the network finally caved. The show was officially cancelled. A formal statement was issued by the network's parent company attempting to save face. After careful review, we have decided to discontinue the Ethan Blake Show. While we value spirited debate and diverse perspectives, we acknowledge the concerns raised about recent episodes and the integrity of our programming. We remain committed to ethical journalism and will take steps to ensure our content meets the highest standards. It was a corporate way of saying, we got caught. But Clint wasn't done. The lawsuit didn't just cost the show its airtime, it cost them millions. The settlement was historic. The network agreed to a multi-million-dollar payout for defamation and emotional distress. But it wasn't about the money. Clint donated every single cent to veteran support organizations and programs for underprivileged youth. This was never about me, Clint said in a post-settlement interview. This was about standing up to dishonesty. This was about making sure people know they don't have to take it lying down. Ethan Blake, once a media darling, had become a pariah. His credibility was shattered. His own industry colleagues distanced themselves, issuing statements condemning dishonest media practices without mentioning his name outright. The final blow? A $10 million fine issued by the FCC for deliberate audience manipulation, deceptive editing practices, and fraudulent broadcasting. Ethan disappeared from public life. No more smug monologues, no more talk show appearances. Sponsors refused to touch him. No network wanted his name attached to their brand. But Clint, his legacy was stronger than ever. The viral moment that started it all, the moment Ethan mocked his necklace and Clint shut him down with cold, hard truth, became an instant classic. The internet turned it into memes, TikTok edits, and reaction videos. Respectant Outdated began trending for weeks. YouTubers and commentators broke down every second of the moment, from the precision of Clint's words to the exact second the audience turned on Ethan. Podcasters called it one of the most satisfying takedowns in television history. More than that, Clint's stance ignited a national conversation. News panels debated it. Other celebrities started coming forward about similar treatment by the media. Even politicians weighed in. A few networks tried to spin it, tried to claim it was blown out of proportion, but no one bought it. Clint wasn't just respected, he was untouchable. And when asked if he had any final thoughts on the whole ordeal, he simply leaned back in his chair, gave that signature squinting stare, and said, "Respect isn't outdated, but some people have to learn that the hard way." If you care about the truth, share this video.